So, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Connect to the Greatness Engineering Hour show. It's a pleasure to have you here with us and get to know you better and know your story and also get to get some points on how we can lead well because a lot of us need it right now with what's going on. So before we get to this point, can you please, let us know who you are, what is your story and what are the key thing, the key highlights, in your life. And then, so that we can start this amazing conversation on leadership.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me. My name is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And I'm a motivational speaker, but my platform is really personal development because I know just how important it is for everybody to develop as a person. Because no matter where you go, you're there. And if you never develop as a person, if you never become the best version of yourself, you take the same problems and the same struggles and the same thinking from one job to the next, from one company to the next, and even from one relationship to the next. And so I want to make sure that everybody that I encounter get an opportunity to see the best version of themselves. And I tell people all the time, the best way to get the right answers is to ask the right questions. And I really think a lot of people aren't asking the right questions of themselves. Now, they'll ask it of everybody else, but they rarely ask the right questions of themselves. So that's why I come in to help them to understand and discover who they are and the uniqueness that they have. Now, I am married. I have a wife and 5 kids. And yes, I did say 5, which means that I've done a lot of talking. And I do a lot of talking. And I tell people all the time, I said, if I disciplined my children every time they did something wrong, if I spanked them every time they did something wrong, I would have to contract it out. Okay. But I've learned how to actually communicate to them and talk to them in such a way to where they can remember what I've said. And I've even gotten to the point where I would start a sentence and then I would stop and say, okay, finish the sentence. And they could tell me almost word for word what I was going to share with them. So I say, look, it's not a question of whether or not you knew better, but you just didn't do better. So I spent a lot of time helping them to develop and to actually be the best version of themselves. Now, as far as my speaking goes, I make sure that people truly understand what they have and what they bring to the table. And I do that through authoring, speaking, and coaching. We also have an upcoming event, which I'll talk about later, but it is geared around leadership. And I am so excited to be on your show today and to share with you the information that I've learned over the years about how important it is to lead well.
And leadership is a key, it's a key skill that we need to, and sometimes we don't understand how important it is. We think that, we can improvise and really don't pay attention to how we lead, but it comes back and bite us at some point. So what I really want to know is, when we talk about leadership, what do you think is a good leader? Because there's so many version and definition of leadership. Right now we have some people call themselves transformational leadership, progressive leadership, so all kind of leadership. But what is leadership in a way, and what is a good leader for you?
Well, leadership starts on the inside, but it doesn't stay there. Leadership starts on the inside. For those that are taking notes, write that down. Leadership starts on the inside, but it doesn't stay there. And what I mean by that is this. Before you can lead anybody else, you have to learn how to lead yourself. Before you can hold anybody else accountable, you have to do the same thing for yourself. So leadership starts on the inside, but once you've mastered that, it doesn't stay there. Then you have an obligation and a responsibility to help people around you. And so to me, a leader is someone who has the self-discipline, the integrity, and the character to hold himself accountable. And then they can do that for other people. But until you do that for yourself, it's real difficult to do it for someone else because they will
Mhm.
call you on it. Believe me, I know.
And which bring the you know the role, being a role model basically for people that you want to lead, because you can't really be a good leader in a way, if I understand what you say, if you're not yourself a role model, because there's no way you're going to get people to follow you, because at the end of the day, it's about what you portray. It's about the value that you bring in. It's about your mission and the goals, and you have to own them before you can expect other people to do that. So, but what are the key challenges? Because I mean, we've seen so far with what's going on in the world, and we can look at the family structure. We can look at the political level. We can look at the governance level, or even in the education system. There's quite a lot of flow. What do you think are the key missing link to help basically put back some sense, some leadership sense into what's happening right now?
Okay, well, that really goes into the outline I have for today on how to lead well. And I'm going to give you 3 points so you can write these down, and then I'll go into each and every one of them. The first point under how to lead well is you have to lead with integrity. Write that down. Point number 1, lead with integrity. The second thing is you need to lead with respect. So number 2 is lead with respect. And number 3, you have to lead with compassion. So number 3 is lead with compassion. So we got lead with integrity, lead with respect, and lead with compassion. Now I'm going to break all 3 of those down for you, because I know that to be an effective leader, we talk about an effective leader now, you have to have at least those 3 components to start. And we'll get into some other stuff later. But the first one is lead with integrity. And my definition of integrity is nothing more than your intents, your words, and your actions lining up. I'm going to say that again. Integrity, my definition of integrity is what you intend to do, what you say you're going to do, and what you do. They all line up. I give you a prime example. When I was a child and I was being bad, and my mother told me, I'm going to spank you. My mother, she had integrity. Why? Because her intent, her words, and her actions all lined up. Now, my grandmother, on the other hand, she was a little more lenient. She may say, keep it up and I'm going to spank you. And I knew in the back of my mind, she really didn't necessarily mean that. So she really wasn't going to follow through. So when it comes to being a leader, you have to have integrity, because that's one of the first things that people look for. Someone who has good intentions, they have a good communication, and then they have good follow through. So as we look at the world in which we live today, are our leaders, are their intents, are their words, and are their actions lining up? Because if any one of those are off, they lack integrity. They lack integrity, and that should not be us. We should not be the type of people that don't follow through on what we say we're going to do, or say stuff that we really don't mean. So if you're going to lead well, you have to have integrity. Now, next up is lead with respect. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to lead with respect? It means to honor the other individual just as much as you honor yourself. I'm a person of faith, and one of the scriptures that I truly love is love your neighbor as you love yourself. But what I found is that a lot of people have a hard time loving themselves, which makes it that much harder for them to love someone else. It makes it that much harder for them to respect someone else. When I was a teenager, I oftentimes looked at the fellas in school. And if they didn't care what happened to themselves, if they didn't care whether they got in trouble or not, if they didn't care whether they went to jail or whether they lived or died, I didn't hang out with them, because they didn't respect themselves enough to stay out of trouble. So I know if they didn't care anything about what happened to them, they could care less about what happened to me. So in order to be an effective leader, you have to lead with respect. That means that you have to respect the other individual, just the fact that they're human. Give them the decency of being human and knowing that they are worth just as much as you are. Talking to them in a way that honors them as well as it says a lot about you. You know, oftentimes people run into folks that really have an issue with how they lead. They will come across individuals that really don't respect themselves. So it becomes incredibly difficult for them to respect others. And those are the type of leaders that we don't need. Those are the type of leaders that we shouldn't be. If anything, we should be helping ourselves to respect ourselves, to honor each other while honoring ourselves. So that's what leading with respect is. But now them leading with compassion is being able to realize that, listen, the people that you're in charge of, the people that you're leading, they are looking to you to do what's best for the organization, for the business, for the family. They are looking to you. And if you fail to have the compassion to do what's best for everybody, you failed as a leader. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't want to ascribe that to themselves. But if you do not have compassion for the people that you're leading, if you do not look out for their best interests, you're going to wind up with an organization, with the business, with the company, with the family that's dysfunctional, to where there's strife and to where there's uprising. You are going to have a riot, if you will. And it may not be a violent one, but I'm talking about there's going to be some dissension among the people that you're leading. So you have to have compassion. They have to know how much you care before they care how much you know. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure that you pour into them the fact that, listen, I'm doing what's best for the majority, for everybody involved. And it's not just a one-sided thing.
And that's the problem. And I think the integrity and the compassion have been really, the key one that I've seen so far leaders struggling with. Because there's, when people talk about, being a leader, being successful is about, competition. So being better than anybody and not really, really thinking just about yourself and not thinking about the community, the organization, the company. And it's actually failing us right now. And it's really the problem. And that's why we, I'm gonna laugh here. We probably need a little bit more women with compassion, coming in and bringing, a little bit of, water, if I say, into all this very testosterone and ego that we see going on. So I mean, just to continue with this conversation, what have been really, in your journey, the key challenge that you've seen so far? So you've defined what, leading well is exactly, but what have been your key challenge and how have you been able to address them?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that I see when it comes to leadership is one of the biggest mistakes leaders make is they fail to prepare. Mm-hmm. They fail to prepare. And what I mean by that is this. There's going to come a time when they're not there. Mm-hmm. There's going to come a time when they're off the scene or they can't be in a situation. Mm-hmm. And if they haven't equipped the people that they're leading to step up and step into the role, then they have actually put themselves and put the organization at a disadvantage. I remember, the Black Panther, and two of the greatest lines in that movie came from the mother and from the father. Mm-hmm. Like the mother told him, show them who you are. But the father said, a father has failed if he's not prepared his children for his death. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that was so poignant because it means that his role was to prepare them for when he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And that's what a leader does. A leader needs to prepare for the future because you're not always going to be in that position. You're not always going to be at that stage. And you need to start grooming the people behind you. And that's one of the biggest challenges a lot of people have. And sometimes it's because of their ego. Sometimes it's because of what they get from being in that position. But the reality is we are a heartbeat away from being gone. So we need to make sure that we spend our time preparing the next generation to step up into our place. Don't just leave them to try to figure it out. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, no one groomed me, no one prepared me. But let it stop with you. Don't let the next generation suffer the same problems and issues that you went through. Step up, and even if you got to be vulnerable, I mean, and you don't have to give all the sordid details, but just tell about what you went through, what you dealt with, and how you overcame it to help equip them so that they can step in and they can be that much further ahead. So one of the biggest issues and challenges that leaders make or have, and one of the mistakes they make, is that they don't prepare the next generation. They don't look for the future. They don't put themselves in a position to where after they're gone, somebody else can succeed.
And you're right. And I've seen it, I've seen it, I've worked, all over the world, and especially in a lot of countries in Africa where you see this disconnect. We have a very young population in Africa, but the leaders are old, and they don't prepare. They're not prepared to lead, and they don't prepare anybody to replace them. So there's going to be a huge leadership gap that's actually, and it's already happening, and it's going to be very detrimental to the next generation, because this preparation is not done, and it's really, and I think in the US as well, we see, the candidates, the age that they have, and yet we have the population is still very young, and it becomes really a problem for the to get the proper leadership and go in the right direction. So we got to take a break and look at, I've seen some few comments here. There's Sophie. Sophie's watching from Cameroon, and she's enjoying the conversation. We have Mr. Unstoppable. So Terence, hey Terence, how are you? Great to see you here. We have Caroline as well. Hey Caroline, watching from the UK, and Terence is already, taking part into this conversation. A leader creates the legacy of the company and the organization. Perception in closely related leadership. And and we have Caroline as well. Every organization and institution, including family, need a succession plan. And I really like that, Caroline, because sometimes we forget the family. And we don't actually think about the succession plan for family, either, for values and worse. And I think especially in the Black community, about wealth generation, the generational wealth that's actually going to help our children to be able to be free in every single area of their life. So let's have a break, a short break, and we come back because it's eating up right now. And just take the time to settle for those just joining us, and we're gonna come back and continue this exciting conversation on leadership. So we are back in with Chikon, and we really, eating up into the leadership conversation. And with this video, I'm tempted to ask you, with, all your expertise, where do you, see yourself having an impact, and how does it materialize, where you are, and globally in a way, because we all, have, a role to play, and really wanted to understand where your role is, is in all of this.
Well, I definitely see how important and how critical leadership is. I mean, because without proper leadership, no organization, no company, no business, no group can truly survive. I mean, if you're thinking about sports, if you have a team that has a losing record, they don't get rid of the entire team. They get rid of the coaches. They start at the head. They change out the leadership. So if that's true in sports, what about in business? What about in an organization or even in our families? I mean, we have to put in the work to develop ourselves as leaders. We have to learn the importance of the position. Some people take it as, okay, it's a power grab. I'm just in it and I'm here because I'm the one in charge. They don't realize the responsibility that comes with leadership. They want to sit high and they want to look low. But the key component of that is realizing that we are responsible. Whether we succeed or whether we fail, it falls on the leaders. So before you step up and say, I want to lead, my question is, are you ready? Have you prepared yourself? Have you put in the work? Have you shadowed somebody? And the term shadowing means following somebody and actually finding out how they do something. And learn from them. Get you a mentor, someone that can teach you and school you and train you. And that requires humility. That requires you saying, I don't know enough. I need to get around somebody who does, and I need to be quiet long enough to learn something. I remember several years ago, I actually met this young entrepreneur, and the first thing the person said was, I bought my own company. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's good. That's fine. She used to work for the company. She came back and she was able to purchase it. And that was wonderful. But the problem was she lacked humility from the standpoint of finding out how to run the company. That was her opening line. Every time she met someone in a networking environment, she shared that. I also met this other guy. He had a magazine and he did the same thing. Talked about how his magazine was and how popular it was and all of that, but he never made it about the people that were in it. He always made it about, this is mine. This is, I have the last say so. If you don't understand that leadership truly means serving, then you're really not cut out for it. And in fact, when I say that, I mean, you can change that aspect of yourself. You can get a better perspective and a better understanding about leadership. But if you never evolve, if you never mature in your thinking, you would think that, okay, this just means I'm running things and I'm in charge. You never see that responsibility that comes with leadership.
And that's, and that's where a question comes. Do you think people are born with that, or do they have to develop that through, the experience that they have and learn from other people? I think you probably, answered the question, but I'm still asking is that, do you think people are born leaders, or do you think that, anybody can become a good leader and lead well?
Several years ago, I remember seeing a video by Dr. Miles Monroe, and he said, leaders are angry. And I was like, whoa, what do you mean? He said, leaders are angry. They see something that they don't like, and they want to change it. So they become the change that they're looking for. So as far as whether or not somebody is born with it or not, if you run across something, if you see something that really gets under your skin, you don't have to ask somebody, is it okay if I do something about that? No, you're going to take it upon yourself to address the issue. You're going to lead yourself. So whether or not somebody is born with it, now there are certain characteristics that people have, like charisma and, self-confidence and all of that. But when you see something that's worth fighting for, when you see something that you just cannot let stand or let stay in a certain place, then you become a leader because you want to see the change and you spearhead that change. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or MAD as they call them, once that happened to them, once they had a child that was lost to a drunk driver, they didn't need anybody's permission. That's whether or not they were going to change the world. They took it upon themselves. We're not waiting for any sort of committee. We're not waiting for anybody to vote. We're going to form this organization and we're going to make a difference. They started leading in that respect. So once you find something that you're passionate enough about, that you're willing to suffer for, and that you're willing to put yourself on the line for, you will become a leader. You'll find out whatever it is you need to do, whatever it is you have to accomplish, whatever courses you need to take, whatever skills you need to develop, you will do that because you are so passionate about what it is you want to change. And that's why, for me, inner leadership is the most important type of leadership you can have. Because if you can't start with yourself, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. And so I'm encouraging everybody to truly find out what it is you're willing to fight for. What are the non-negotiables in your life? And those are areas that you'll be best equipped to lead because your passion will drive you. You won't have to ask somebody to, okay, wake me up and in fact remind me to go and save somebody's life. No, if you really want to do that, nothing can stop you. But until you find out what that is, anything can.
Exactly. Wow, that's really powerful. And then what I take from it is just, leadership start with us. And, because we see a lot of people, always looking for somebody else, when they're a problem, to solve their problems or to get the permission to do something. And yet they don't understand that, they can be the leaders in this situation and start where they are. It's not about the title. It's about the attitude. It's about the mindset, and it's about action.
Exactly.
If I can express myself that way, because as soon as you start the process, and you're passionate about it, and you really want to change something, other people are gonna follow, because that's the way things works. And it's really powerful, we understand that, in a way we can always have, an impact, and we shouldn't play victims even when challenges are really great. We need to push and understand how we can, use what we have to change the situation. So just now, moving into, obviously, I mean, there's a lot that can be said, on leadership, but you have an event, that you run, I think every year, and just wanted to understand, it's all about leadership. Wanted to understand what it is all about, and really, what is the objective of the event, and what are the key things that you're trying to achieve with that event?
Okay. Well, the event is entitled the Next Level Leadership Summit. Next Level Leadership Summit. And it's coming up October 8th through the 10th, and it's going to be done online this year. To find out more information, you can go to nllsummit.com. That's N as in next, L as in level, L as in leadership, summit.com. So nllsummit.com. Now, as far as the actual event, we're going to talk about 7 different areas of leadership. 7 different areas of leadership. One of the areas is inner leadership. Another one is outer leadership. Other one is corporate leadership. Then we have organizational leadership, male leadership, female leadership, and youth leadership. And we have dynamic, incredible speakers from all over the planet that's going to be talking about those particular types of leaders and the leadership that is needed to lead in those areas. Now, somebody said, Sekoni, why would you have an outer leadership category? I mean, you already got organizational leadership and got corporate leadership. What is outer leadership? Well, outer leadership is leading others, but not in a corporate environment or in an organization. Because in corporate leadership, you're leading for a profit. But in organizational leadership, you're leading for a cause. Outer leadership is leading in a crisis. Let's say that you were in a building that unfortunately was on fire, and no one seemed to be able to figure out what it is we need to do, how we need to get out of here. Instead of trying to have a vote, or instead of saying, well, I ain't gonna say anything, no, you step up and you start to lead. You lead because it's needed. You don't wait for somebody to elect you, for you to go through an interview and a hiring process. You're in a crisis. So you need to find a way to actually get everybody out, and you do it for the benefit of others, not just for yourselves. So that's what outer leadership is. And of course, we've already talked about inner leadership and how important it is would actually start on the inside, but then lead outwardly. Well, corporate leadership, again, leading for a profit, increasing the bottom line. Organizational leadership is leading for a cause, whether it be in a church or whether it be in a nonprofit. You have a mission statement and a cause that you're trying to lead. So leading those people, there's a different skill set that's needed for people that are volunteers as opposed to people that are paid. You have different motivations. Okay, so we're going to break down those. But then we also have male leadership. And somebody said, well, Sakona, why are you going to separate male and female leadership? Because someone needs to know that there are different dynamics that comes with leading a predominantly male organization versus a predominantly female organization. And so our definition of male leadership is leading with logic. Now, that's not to say that women don't have logic, because they do. And we know that to be true.
That can be dangerous.
I know. But there has to be a distinction, because you can't just use the same approach with each group. So when you're dealing with a predominantly male organization, you have to have facts and figures to help them understand what your goal is. When you're dealing with a predominantly female organization, you have to lead with heart. Now, that doesn't mean that men don't have heart, but you have to deal with the predominant or the dominant trait that most women have, which is a caring heart. And thank God for that, because that's needed. But if I'm a male and I'm leading a predominantly female organization, that means I need to understand that truth so I can effectively, because I can't use the same techniques I would with a male organization with the female. I need to understand what's needed to help me lead a predominantly female organization. And then our last one is youth leadership. Now that one, we're talking about leading with hope, meaning that in order to prepare the youth for tomorrow, we have to give them something to look forward to. We have to give them the hope that they can make the world a better place. We have to help them understand the world is going to be in your hands and we're going to be passing this off to you. So helping to lead them or helping to develop them so that they can actually be prepared to step into our shoes. Like I said earlier, we're not always going to be here. And we need to take it upon ourselves to make sure we set up the next generation to succeed. Because otherwise we failed ourselves and them. So
it's but the thing is, and I'm gonna bring again the question is that you have all those leadership, but at the end we all come together. How do you integrate all of that? Because that's really the challenge. Is as we know, we all unique. We all have assets, skills. And it's the same for leadership. But the challenge is, how do we put all of this together to have a functioning, a society and humanity without all the disturbance that we have right now, And I think that's the key, because we're talking about, I think the term is VUCA, which is the, volatile, uncertain, and complex and ambiguous world. How do we lead in this, in this type of world, using all those leadership? How do we integrate that?
Well, I will be the first to say that I sincerely doubt that everybody's going to have to really know about every one of those. But I can almost guarantee that 3 or 4 of those you're going to encounter in your lifetime. You're going to find yourself in a position where you're leading young people, or in fact, where you're leading a corporate organization, or whether you're part of a organization like a nonprofit, or you may find yourself in a crisis situation. So developing all of those areas, that skill set to understand how to effectively operate in those areas, is going to be key to whether or not you see success in those areas. Now, how is that integrated? Not one person, hopefully, not one person is going to have to deal with all of those at the same time. I know, being a father, I find myself having to switch hats and having to switch roles and having to talk to a 33-year-old and then having to talk to a 13-year-old and having to talk to a 25-year-old. I know that there are times when I have to change gears depending upon who I'm talking to. And there are times when we have to change hats and skill sets depending upon what organization or where we find ourselves. But being able to actually get that information, it will It'll be tools in our toolbox. So when we need a hammer, we pull the hammer out. When we need a wrench, we pull the wrench out. When we need a screwdriver, we pull the screwdriver out. So having all of those tool sets in your toolbox will help you when you find yourself in a position and in a situation where I'm in a crisis. What do I do? How do I lead? How do I talk to people? Do I just walk orders to people, or do I help them understand, listen, I want to live too, and this is the best way for us to get out of here. So our speakers go in depth into all of those categories, making sure that everybody knows the importance of being able to lead in the corporate environment, or organizational environment, outer leadership, male leadership, female leadership, youth leadership, and inner leadership. So I'm just over the top excited, because I know that once people go through this, and we also have this incredible workbook. It's not just going to be just talk. There's an incredible workbook which has some exercises in it, which is going to help develop you so that you can actually be that type of leader. So you can be the person, so you can have the confidence that you need. So no matter what comes your way, you can step up and say, hey, I know how to lead here, because I've actually gone through this process. So that is what I'm truly excited about. What people are going to look like on the other side, the confidence they're going to have to be able to step up, even on their job, and be able to lead. So I'm excited about that.
Fantastic. So we have few comments here. There's Caroline talking about the family. You know, it all begins in the family. When family does well, the community does well.
Yes.
And there's also Coach T, Mr. Unstoppable. Managers manage, leaders evolve. And I think that's what we were talking about. There's also the humility aspect of leadership, and which Caroline also, agree with. And we have, hey, Elder Chisholm, welcome. Humility is key for anyone, especially leaders, and that's fantastic. So let's have another short break, and we will come back and resume, the conversation for the last part of the show. So stay tuned. We'll be back.
I'm looking at real life superheroes. Because see, when y'all are called up, you're there to save a life, to save property. Now, yes, those movies, they encourage us, they inspire us. But when it comes down to real life, you're the hero. That children are 40% of our population, but 100% of our future. You're the leaders of tomorrow. My thing is, at this point now, understanding how important that is going to help you lead better. You're going to do what needs to be done to affect the next generation. You're coming up now, but there's somebody coming behind you. So look at the leaders that you want to emulate now. But remember that you are leading somebody. Yes.
So with that, we are back. We are back with Chikon and a nice video. And I saw, people in uniform. So that's a key one that I want to ask you, because there's so much going on, especially in the US right now with, people in uniform and all the activism around it. So how do you see this, being resolved, especially when we look at leadership, and what is missing? What do you think this is happening?
Well, I think that we really need to change the narrative. And what I mean by that is change how not only do we talk about each other, but talk about ourselves. Because it's that narrative that affects our thinking. And then it's that thinking that affects our actions. So if we change how we talked about each other, if we changed how we saw each other, if we changed how we viewed each other, then our actions would change. If we stop criminalizing people and actually see them as a human being, if we give them the same dignity and respect that we want for ourselves, then we'll find ourselves in a better place as a society, as a community. And so just dealing with that aspect of dealing with changing the narrative. I remember there was a well-known actor. He was driving in Los Angeles and he got pulled over. And once the cop saw him and saw who he was like, oh yeah. And so he didn't give him a hard time. But the guy said, what if he didn't know me? What if he didn't think he knew me? What if he didn't have any sort of reference? Because he had seen some of his work, he had a different take on him. He had a different perspective on him because he felt like he knew him. And so changing our conversation and really having more conversations with each other, that dialogue that's needed in order for us to understand who we are and where we're coming from. To me, that's what's going to change. That's what's going to change our current situation. That's what's going to help us to treat each other with dignity and respect. And it's going to put us in a better place to where we can move forward as a society.
And that's a strong statement because you always scared of what you don't know. So that's and the communication is really key so that we get to know each other. We get to know each other. We set the right the right tone, and when you are comfortable and this fear is not there anymore, then it's gonna solve. It's gonna help. Settle a lot of things, and which mean I think that the leadership aspect in the formation and education of people in police or whatever corps that you use in the US is very important. It put a lot of effort on leadership more than anything because that's what transpired. Because you talked about lead with respect, and that's I think that's really go into this category where people in those organizations needs to know that leadership and being in authority is about respect and really give the respect so that you can get the respect as well. So that's key. So I mean, there's been we've been talking about leadership, we've been talking about a lot of things, and you talked about your own experience. And what I really want to know is what is your legacy? What do you really want to us to and the world to what do you want to be remembered for? And that's a key one that I really want to know because obviously talking about leadership is it's a key thing right now in the world. So what is really the thing that you want to be remembered for?
Well, it's really wrapped up in our slogan. That is making motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And I want to be remembered for helping people to understand who they are and their own value and their own worth. Because my thing is, until you learn that, until you truly embrace that, anything in the world can stop you. But once you do, once you understand that, once you truly embrace that, nothing can. So I want to be remembered for introducing people to themselves, for them to understand the greatness that lies within them, for them to know that they can make a difference in the world in which they live. That's what I want to be remembered for.
Very, very strong. So making motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And that's something that we don't do a lot those days, really understand, sit down and understand who we are, because we're really quick at pointing fingers to other people, but who are we? And understand how we react to certain situation, what kind of food for thought that we're putting into our head, how do we react into certain situation, what are our strengths, what are our gaps, and how do we fill them. And we don't take a lot of time right now to really do that, and it's actually getting serious now, and not really serving us. So I mean, before we leave this platform, just wanted to ask you, how do people can connect with you, and also, is there anything else? You obviously talked about the conference, but is there anything else that you feel like somebody in this audience will benefit from?
Well, again, I want to thank you for allowing me an opportunity to be on your show. And in order for people to stay connected with me, they can search me on all social medias. Ciccone Prince, that's Cicone Prince. And I mean, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. You can find me almost anywhere. My website is CicconePrince.com. That's Cicone Prince.com. And that's where you can find out all of the information. Now, I do want to also say that I do have a coaching service, because there are people that really have yet to truly understand who they are. They just need somebody to help them discover and unwrap the gift that's within them. And that's what I do. I spend time one-on-one with you to help you to understand what it is you have to offer. But I do that, like I said earlier, in order to get the right answers, you have to ask the right questions. So I have a series of questions that I tailor to you, because your response, it leads us into your own direction. There's no cookie cutter approach to understanding who you are. We start with some basic questions, and then from there we build out and find out exactly what it is you're passionate about, what it is that you're willing to actually, for lack of a better term, die for. And we try to figure out a way how to actually build your own economy or your own destiny, your own vision and goals around that. Because I tell you one thing, once you've understood that, once you find out what that is, nothing can stop you. Nothing can. No, it may take you 10, 15, I don't care how many years, but once you know exactly what it is you've been called to do, what you've been given to do, nothing can stop you. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about that is because I found mine. And mine is encouraging you to find yours and helping you in that process. Now, our summit is a great start. It's a great place to start in order to get that process going. But after the summit, there's definitely going to be some coaching opportunities that you don't want to miss. So again, go to NLL Summit. That's NLLSummit.com. You can sign up for the summit there. Tickets are only $49 because it's going to be online, but you're going to get $300, $500 worth of value. And I'm not just saying that just to throw that out. I am serious with the amount of information that's being provided, with the workbooks, and with other giveaways. You are going to get more than your fair share of value. I'm serious. So NLLSummit.com. And you can reach out to me on Facebook, like I said, Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. There are so many other opportunities that I've taken advantage of just to share my passion with you. And that's what it is. It's a passion to see you in a better place. Again, Mary, I want to thank you for having me on the show. This has been an incredible experience, and thank you for your platform. You are nothing short of a rock star, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your, for your insight and really, great knowledge and helping us to understand what leadership is all about and, the key challenge that we have. And I encourage, all the people watching and people who are going to watch the replay to make sure they register for the summit and start there, because even if you have the feeling that you know a lot, and it's always good to go back to the basic and understand and see things from a different angles. And because when we are in our own world, we don't see everything. It's always good to have somebody else perspective and blend it with what we have. So make sure you register, and if you really want to go to the next level as far as your leadership is concerned, Chikon is also a coach, so you can get in contact with him through any platform. And if you have difficulty to find him, you can find me and I can connect you. That's not a problem. So we're going to have a small video again. Come back for the last message because it's not finished. I really want everybody to leave this platform today inspired for a long time. So don't go anywhere. We'll finish in beauty and come back. So our last word, what's your last word for us, Chikon, today, so that we leave this platform completely satisfied with everything that we've heard today?
Dr. Miles Monroe once said, the greatest failure in life is to succeed at the wrong assignment. The greatest failure in life is to succeed at the wrong assignment. And I want to make sure that that's not you. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that you're not climbing the wrong mountain. But I want to make sure that you are thoroughly equipped for whatever comes your way. I want to make sure that you are the best possible version of yourself for your family, for your community, for your organizations, and for your jobs. I want to make sure that you show up in such a way to where people are glad that you're there. They are looking for you because you have what it takes in order to help them move forward. And so if that's you today, if you're that type of person that wants to be a better version of yourself, I encourage you to attend our summit, nllsummit.com, and I encourage you to reach out to me. And let's have a conversation so that we can actually talk about how I can help you and how my organization can help you get to where you want to be. Because I tell you that until you've reached that level of personal fulfillment, you're always going to be hungry. You're always going to be starving, and you're not going to be satisfied. But once you truly find out what it is you've been called and given to do, you'll never work another day in your life. So again,
fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your audience. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I look forward to helping y'all any way I can.
Thank you very much, Chikon. Thank you for this inspiring message. And really, I hope that the audience is ready. And please share this message. It's an important message. Yes. Don't let it stop at your level. Share this message and make sure you also inform people about this summit coming up. And, yes. and really, get to the next level so that you can get to the next level of your greatness and become the best version of yourself. That's what this platform is all about. I bring you the best so that you can, have, you can have the right information and the right support to just do that and leave nothing on the table of life. So that's all for today. And I hope that, you all enjoyed it. And again, thank you, Chikon, for your energy, positivity, and for your inspiration. And so for everybody, I say bye-bye. It's going to be good night for me. Enjoy the rest of the day on your side in the US, and have a great afternoon in Europe and in Africa. So thank you very much. I'll be back later this week and with another great guest. Until now, please take care and have a great day.
Looking for the best way to maximize the pool of talent you have? Looking to equip your leaders with the skills they need to lead more effectively? Ready to develop your workforce into a mission-driven organization? Well, then you need to make sure they attend the Next Level Leadership Summit. This Next Level event will focus on preparing your leaders to effectively carry out your company, organization, or group's mission statement, while creating a culture that is conducive for growth. Next Level Leadership Summit, October 8th through the 10th, 2020, online.